Never believe who just said hello to me. I said, who? Oh, Meghan. I said, do you know her? No, she said, she just came up to us because, she thought, oh, we're a trial and we're with very rich grand people. So she never misses an opportunity to make a connection.
She had one amazing ability, which was to find a man who needed her.
Oh.
And she played him brilliantly. The actress was sensational.
She doesn't want a pauper. She doesn't want another pauper Angela like Harry. You know, that he's not rich enough for her, okay?
It gets trickier because these billionaires can sense one thing. When you're not looking for a partner, you're looking for a solution.
Does have somebody else. It will be some kind of older, really rich man.
Tycoon.
Well, an Arab prince.
You watch.
Harry just can't give her anything else anymore. He's served his purpose. His purpose is over and they're no longer aligned in purpose. So for her, it's time to move on.
Something about the conversation surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry has shifted dramatically. The usual questions about royal titles, family tension, and their California lifestyle are now being joined by a much more personal theory. What exactly does Meghan see happening next? That question recently exploded during a televised royal discussion where commentators openly debated claims about Meghan's social circle and her future with Harry. One host claimed, "I know for a fact there have been meetings with billionaires in Los Angeles. Meetings, not parties. Not red carpets, meetings." No public evidence presented during that exchange established what those alleged meetings involved, but the statement immediately gave the panel plenty to discuss. Angela Levin, who previously wrote a biography of Prince Harry, then pushed the conversation even further.
Obviously, she can say, well, look, I'm needing professional investment or all of that type of thing. But Burrell's suggestion and your suggestion seems to be also if something romantic presented itself.
She will take her royal kids, who can still go by prince and princess, and find the billionaire, like you say, who actually will just keep her in the manner to which she like to become accustomed.
I think she's been after people who are extraordinarily rich for quite a long time now. And I don't know whether they're not interested in her or she hasn't fancied them, but she's still hanging on to Harry because she can't find the right person.
She suggested that Meghan had been interested in meeting extremely wealthy men and speculated about why nothing had apparently developed. Levin said she did not know whether those men were uninterested in Meghan or whether Meghan simply had not found somebody she liked. Either way, her interpretation was that Meghan remains with Harry because the supposed right person has not appeared. That is a massive claim, and there is no solid public evidence proving Meghan is searching for another partner. But as commentary, it reveals just how dramatically the public narrative around this marriage has changed. Instead of asking whether Harry and Meghan can repair their relationship with the royals, some commentators are now questioning whether the Sussex partnership itself remains as strong as the couple publicly presents it. Paul Burrell, who previously worked as Princess Diana's butler, has also offered his own prediction. He argued on television that Meghan could eventually move away from Harry and suggested that somebody with billionaire-level wealth could represent her next chapter.
I think it won't be enough for Meghan and it won't be enough for Harry. And she will just go off and her next step is a billionaire because she's got millions. So why not step up to a billionaire? And why not go for politics? Why not become governor of California?
Again, that is Burrell's personal prediction, not evidence that such a move is actually happening. Another royal correspondent added a different angle, portraying Meghan as somebody who is constantly planning several moves ahead. In his assessment, she is always thinking about what comes next, with Harry playing an important role in that strategy. That framing is harsh. It essentially reduces the marriage from a personal relationship to something critics believe also carries enormous professional and social value. And that is where Harry's position becomes central to the debate. Since stepping away from working royal duties and moving to California, Harry has built a very different public life. His royal identity remains instantly recognizable, but commentators continue questioning what his long-term professional lane actually is outside the monarchy. That uncertainty gives critics another opening to argue that the Sussex brand still depends heavily on the thing the couple originally stepped away from: Harry's connection to the royal family.
And we know that she is developing friendships, shall we say, with numerous billionaires who could, of course, come in handy for lots of reasons.
He is aimless. He doesn't know what he's going to do. I always see him like a kind of well-trained racehorse in the way that he doesn't know what to do outside the tracks. And Montecito is very much outside the track.
Harry came from this very busy world of the royal family with lots to do. Even in his spare time, he could play polo and do whatever he wanted. He sat in Montecito, twiddling his thumbs, thinking, what do I do next? What is my role? Where is my work?
Royal biographer Ingrid Seward made that argument especially sharply years ago when she said, Meghan has got to hang on to Harry because, in her view, Harry remained Meghan's entree into an elite world she otherwise would not have entered in quite the same way. That comment sounds even more provocative now because the Sussexes have spent years trying to establish identities beyond palace life. Meghan has pursued media, lifestyle and business projects, while Harry has taken on speaking appearances and other ventures. Yet whenever their independent careers hit turbulence, the royal connection immediately returns to the centre of the conversation. So the controversy is no longer simply about whether Meghan needs Harry personally. Critics are asking something much colder. How much of Meghan's public power still comes from being married to Prince Harry? And this is where critics start digging backward because their argument is not simply about what Meghan Markle might do next. They believe the more revealing question is how she built her network before Prince Harry ever entered the picture. One name repeatedly brought up in those discussions is former footballer Ashley Cole. Royal commentators have claimed Meghan showed interest in meeting Cole during her earlier visits to Britain, well before Harry became part of her life.
That ridiculous story about how they first met. The whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite, because, of course, I got the real story that he got a blind date and was called up and all that. And this is the other thing, which is one of the many, many lies she tells, that she arrived in London, full career, single girl, wasn't interested. Of course, she'd been coming to London since 2013, hunting for a man to marry. She wanted an Englishman. She was on a man now.
That does not prove there was some calculated master plan behind those trips, but critics point to the episode as evidence that Meghan was already trying to move inside influential British circles. Then there is the Piers Morgan story. Morgan has said Meghan contacted him online in September 2015 after he followed her, allegedly writing, "Well, hello there, thanks for the follow. Big fan of yours." The two later met socially. On its own, reaching out to somebody famous is hardly shocking, especially for an actress working in entertainment. But critics connect that interaction with a wider pattern they believe shows Meghan was extremely comfortable building relationships with powerful media figures.
Pictures that I'm about to show you have been banned from the internet. They were scrubbed, but now they're back. They're finally out there. They couldn't keep these files hidden.
She genuinely did get duped in some sort of way. She thought that she was marrying a multi-billionaire. That's how she saw Harry. Unfortunately, the reality of when she came to him, he was living in Frogmore Cottage with his sort of stash and his picked-apart couch. She found very quickly that he, first of all, is not a cash cow. He's got some inheritance. And second of all, he's useless outside of the royal gates and totally useless in America.
The Harry timeline has generated even more controversy. In his book, Tom Bower reported that Meghan had researched Harry before their relationship began and attributed the line, "I have Googled Harry. I have gone deeply into his life," to a conversation involving Meghan and her agent. If accurate, that certainly clashes with the more romantic idea of somebody entering a relationship knowing almost nothing about the prince. Still, researching a potential date is not proof that the relationship itself was calculated. The bigger issue is how differently the same behaviour can be interpreted depending on what people already believe about Meghan.
Meghan has been blessed and privileged. I'm going to treat people as I would want to be treated. She then turns the other way, which just shows a lack of class.
She didn't
and
like it.
Yeah, you can take the girl out of the gutter, right?
But remember, she was treating people like this before she was in the royal family. That's the thing.
True.
This is part of
Hollywood?
her personality.
Lady Colin Campbell has taken the criticism much further, publicly questioning whether Meghan would ever have been interested in Harry without his royal status. That remains speculation because nobody outside the marriage can realistically know the answer. But it has become one of the central arguments used by Meghan's harshest critics. Stories from her acting years have also been dragged into that narrative. One account claims Meghan once requested private air travel while working on a relatively small production in Eastern Europe, something the production supposedly could not afford.
Her demands, this director said, were worse than any other actor he had worked with, and he had worked with true A-listers. She would demand private jets if there was not a first-class flight. He was like, are you kidding? Like, you think our small production has the ability to fly you on a private jet? Like, you're nuts.
But that's how she thinks. She's Beyonce. She thought she was Beyonce then. Then she literally, she is a social climber and she wanted to...
I just thought this woman is really doing something quite dreadful to Britain, and Harry has fallen in love with her in a ludicrous way and has gone along as her accomplice.
Critics have used anecdotes like that to portray her as highly ambitious and demanding long before she entered royal life. But these are recollections from other people, not a complete picture of how those conversations unfolded. Then came May 19th, 2018, and suddenly the networking debate went global. The royal wedding guest list included huge names such as Oprah Winfrey and George Clooney, alongside people from Meghan's professional world.
Guest list to her wedding showed her real ambition was to be a star in California.
All my life, and then Oprah Winfrey had met them once. She was a guest. The Clooneys, the guests. I mean, never met them before, but they were the guests. And, I thought to myself, this all showbiz rubbish.
Tom Bower later scrutinised that guest list, while Tina Brown offered an especially cutting interpretation. She wrote, "Those guests were not a picture of the friends Meghan had. They were a picture of the friends she wanted to get." That is an opinion, but it captures why the guest list still gets discussed years later. Critics looked at those celebrity-filled pews and saw networking happening on the biggest possible stage. Others could just as easily argue that a globally televised royal wedding naturally attracts prominent guests. Andrew Morton described Meghan as a networker to her fingertips, and that description may actually explain the controversy better than the more extreme theories do. Meghan had spent years working in an industry where relationships, introductions, and access matter enormously. Long before Harry, she was already expanding those circles. By the early 2000s, figures such as Marcus Anderson, closely associated with Soho House, had entered her social world. Each connection opened another door, another room, another level of access. And critics now look back at that climb very differently after seeing where it eventually led. And those connections kept getting bigger.
Not in a million years did Meghan think that she was going to score Prince Harry. She thought she was going to score Andrew until Fergie put a stop to it.
She had one amazing ability, which was to find a man who needed her.
Oh.
And she played him brilliantly. The actress was sensational.
Guy has been around all of the time. Isn't that suspicious to you? Because it is for me. It is something strange.
She started on Suits and she befriended Jessica Mulroney. Her status changed.
Through Marcus Anderson came access to circles that included Jessica Mulroney, whose father-in-law, Brian Mulroney, had served as Prime Minister of Canada. By 2014, Meghan was appearing at One Young World in Dublin alongside internationally recognised figures including Kofi Annan, Bob Geldof and Mary Robinson. Critics look at that rise and see a remarkably consistent climb. But networking itself is hardly unusual in entertainment, philanthropy, or public life. The more controversial question is what allegedly happened to some relationships once Meghan's life moved in a different direction.
This is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
Her former childhood friend Ninaki Priddy became one of the loudest examples. The two had reportedly known each other since they were toddlers, and Priddy was involved in Meghan's first wedding. Their friendship eventually collapsed, and Priddy later drew a sharp distinction between Meghan before fame and Meghan after fame. Then came similar accounts from other former acquaintances. Lizzie Cundy has suggested that people in Meghan's orbit sometimes served a purpose. Millie McIntosh described their falling out even more dramatically. "She cut me dead."
Meghan was really trying to kick Jessica out of her life. It's a bit surprising this was a woman whose children played a prominent role in your wedding just 2 years before. Meghan dumped her and seemingly has never spoken to her, never spoken about her. And the reason, according to reports, that Meghan wanted Jessica out of her life is quite silly, you could say.
Meghan's former agent, Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan, has also portrayed her as somebody who was constantly moving toward bigger opportunities. Nick Eade, a London publicist who knew Meghan before Harry, has discussed losing contact as well, and Piers Morgan famously claims Meghan stopped communicating with him after the night she met Prince Harry, repeatedly saying, "She ghosted me." Put those stories together and critics see a pattern. But there is an important distinction here. Several former acquaintances describing similar experiences does not prove Meghan deliberately used and discarded people. Friendships fall apart for countless reasons. Pretty reportedly sided with Trevor Engelson after Meghan's divorce. Mackintosh has offered possible explanations of her own, and Morgan's long-running public feud with Meghan makes his interpretation anything but neutral.
Jessica was intimately close with the couple, and yet she was unceremoniously kicked out.
This is Rachel Meghan Markle in 2006 at a Hamptons party where Harvey Weinstein was there. But of course, nobody was mentioning Meghan Markle because she was a nobody.
20 years ago, that woman would not be able to marry a working member of the British royal family. Even though she's an actress, even though she's playing a role, that is just beneath the British royal family.
Still, critics point out that several long-standing figures have remained in Meghan's orbit, including Doria Ragland, Serena Williams, Misha Nonu, and Marcus Anderson. To skeptics, that contrast raises questions. To supporters, it simply shows what happens naturally over decades. Some friendships survive and others do not. But now the conversation has shifted from old friendships to elite access. The Met Gala has become one example. Meghan has not established herself as a regular presence at fashion's most exclusive annual event, and commentators such as Ingrid Seward have argued that appearing there could give Meghan additional prestige and commercial value.
Has used the British people to make her famous.
She's used the
and
royal
then she's
family.
used, and now she's dropped them to keep her relevant. And no wonder she's so hated. And do you know what? It is not going to end well for her. It is not going to end well. And do you know what? I actually get so angry when I think about her and the way she treated Kate as well.
However, claims about exactly why she has not attended, or who personally does or does not want her there, should not be treated as established fact without reliable evidence. That distinction matters even more when Lauren Sanchez Bezos enters the story. There have been reports and commentaries suggesting tension between Meghan and Lauren, including claims about previous invitations and alleged private remarks. Those stories are disputed territory, and there is no reason to present supposed private insults as confirmed fact. What makes the speculation interesting is the social dynamic critics think it represents. Hollywood relationships can change quickly, and today's distant acquaintance could be tomorrow's gatekeeper.
Harry was always very insistent in 2017, telling the BBC it was a blind date. All of a sudden, there's a completely new story that they met via Instagram. So which are we meant to believe?
But not only that, can you really believe that photograph of Meghan wearing a droopy nose and things somehow said, "Oh, that's the woman for me"? It's ridiculous. I mean, it was calculated to undermine my book.
Meghan Markle only becomes prominent for Soho House, guys, after she starts being on Suits and she's introduced to Marcus Anderson. And then she gets more consistent and more prominent work, okay? Because then she could be in the presence of Marcus Anderson.
Other famous names have also been pulled into this narrative, from the Kardashians to Elton John and David Furnish, the Clooneys, Oprah Winfrey and Gwyneth Paltrow. But distance, fewer public appearances together, or changing social circles do not automatically prove a feud. What critics are really tracking is something broader. Meghan once appeared to be moving deeper and deeper into incredibly powerful circles, while today every missing invitation, faded friendship, and absent celebrity connection gets examined for signs that some of those doors may no longer open quite as easily. And this is where the celebrity circle argument gets even more complicated. Critics claim Meghan's famous connections become harder to spot whenever there is no obvious reason for those celebrities to appear beside her publicly. Whether that interpretation is fair is another question, but her own Netflix lifestyle series quickly became part of the debate. Despite the scale of the production, the guest list was not packed with the A-list names people have associated with Meghan over the years. Viewers did not suddenly see George Clooney walking into the kitchen or Oprah Winfrey appearing for dinner. Chrissy Teigen was among the recognisable celebrity guests, but critics immediately questioned why some of Meghan's most famous connections were nowhere to be seen.
She doesn't care about her reputation, does she? Or does she think that the Duchess of Sussex title can take on anything and nothing's going to happen to it? That title, it's already devalued, depreciated, and valued completely. How embarrassing. And no, Meghan Markle doesn't have a model body.
You think this is a big victory, and that somehow all of the stories, which are factual, which is that Netflix has dumped your because Was Never is the worst lifestyle brand in the history of lifestyle brands. Because what was that show called? I can't even remember. With Love Meghan. With Love Meghan was the worst piece of lifestyle TV programming in the history of lifestyle TV programming. And the fact that they even unfollowed you, Ted included, on social media.
Of course, somebody not appearing on a television show does not prove a friendship has ended. Scheduling, privacy, production decisions, and simple lack of interest can explain plenty. Still, when Meghan's social network has been discussed publicly for years, every notable absence becomes part of the commentary. Lady Colin Campbell has also described Meghan as an aggressive networker, even recalling an alleged incident in Jamaica where Meghan supposedly approached strangers at a private club and introduced herself. Again, networking is hardly a scandal by itself, but critics use stories like that to argue Meghan has always been unusually confident about entering influential circles. Yet even some of Meghan's strongest critics refuse to portray Harry as an innocent passenger in this story.
It's just so wrong to do what she's doing. She has nothing to stand on her own. You know, she doesn't have her own talent, her own way of just making it herself. I mean, my goodness, you married the prince, okay? Can you just try to do something on your own now? And now you're just, going into the family, his dead mother now. Just is so bad. I can't understand why Harry hasn't already made a move by now, because it's only going to get worse from here. It gets worse.
When one television host jokingly suggested Meghan believed she was marrying enormous wealth, only to discover Harry's financial position was more limited, Lady Colin Campbell rejected the idea that only Meghan misunderstood the arrangement. Her argument was much harsher. Both Harry and Meghan may have entered the relationship with exaggerated expectations about what the other could provide. That interpretation cannot be proven from the outside, but it changes the entire narrative. Instead of Harry being portrayed as somebody simply dragged into Meghan's ambitions, critics such as Lady Colin Campbell argue that he actively participated in building their post-royal future. There was certainly enormous ambition surrounding that future.
He also initially deceived her into thinking that he was more powerful than he was. And so each of them was deceiving the other, but she deceived him into thinking they could move to America and they could compete with William and Catherine. So William and Catherine would have Britain and the Commonwealth. They would have the rest of the world, and they would be the global royal couple, which of course hasn't happened because Meghan is as incompetent as Harry is in terms of finance.
I have no sympathy. Yes, she should give up. She should give up because she sold the world a pup. None of us buy in to what she is selling. And also she's just really goddamn terrible at.
After stepping away from working royal duties, Harry and Meghan pursued major media agreements, public appearances, charitable projects, and commercial ventures in America. The vision appeared global, build an identity powerful enough to exist independently from the institution that made Harry famous. But the results have been mixed, and that is why speculation about their marriage keeps resurfacing. During one royal discussion, a commentator predicted that Meghan would eventually leave Harry and pursue an older, extremely wealthy man. That is speculation, nothing more. There has been no publicly confirmed divorce filing or announcement establishing that their marriage is ending. What is notable is how many royal commentators have publicly entertained some version of that possibility.
Do you think that potentially Meghan is starting to realise Harry is not all that and she's going to have to go her own way and pursue a sort of Jeff Bezos type of character for the dreams that she wants to live, because we know she doesn't want to step foot in Britain again. And I know that she has, but I don't know if she'll be stepping foot in London anytime soon.
Well, I think you're spot on in her terms of her ambition, but I don't think, with due respect, she's known for a very long time that Harry didn't have the money that she would have liked him to have.
Yeah, it's not a sort of romantic, actually. It's gathering money, isn't it? It's nothing to do with romantic. I mean, if you remember, the Queen said to her cousin, the late Queen said to her cousin, I felt that Meghan didn't actually love him and didn't really care for him. That's what what she said. And of course, she's spot on. She just has used Harry as somebody she should tell what to do. And he's adored her. So these types of relationships don't go too well together.
Angela Levin, Paul Burrell, Lady Colin Campbell and others have all offered their own interpretations of the Sussex marriage and what could happen next. Similar opinions do not transform speculation into evidence, but they certainly keep the story alive. And Harry's position is especially interesting because criticism is increasingly aimed at him as well. Lady Colin Campbell has described him as unpredictable and disloyal to his family, while also arguing that Meghan has enormous influence over him. Those are her character judgments, not established facts. The bigger issue for any potential royal reconciliation is trust. Harry publicly revealed private family tensions through interviews, his documentary projects, and Spare, creating wounds that may be difficult to repair. So even if critics believe Harry could eventually walk away from his current life, returning to his old one would not necessarily be simple. The door, some commentators imagine sitting slightly open, may come with conditions Harry is nowhere near ready or willing to accept. And that leaves Harry in an incredibly awkward position. Even if relations with the royal family eventually improved, going back would mean confronting everything that happened after he and Meghan left royal duties. The interviews, the public accusations, the documentary series, Spare, and years of family tension that cannot simply disappear overnight.
If Harry were to separate, get divorced, he would be welcomed back by father and son like that. She would be the scapegoat. They'd blame her and everything would be good. They want Harry.
That family.
And the English people, I mean, I was over there when the Queen died. I flew right away when I was working at Extra and covered that whole thing. And it was, the ascension of Charles was right after it. They were almost preparing for two things at once and loved all the British folk, loved Harry. They still love Harry. They're mad at Harry, but forgiveness will be quick and swift. It's all her. And every person I chatted with in the street, I did tons of MOS. All their bitterness is directed at.
So where do you stand? Was Harry swept up in something he did not fully understand? Or was he a grown man who knew exactly what he wanted and willingly chose this path? And do you believe Meghan's networking history actually reveals something important about her ambitions? Or are critics connecting unrelated events because they already dislike her? Drop your take in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Share it with someone who follows celebrity and royal drama, and subscribe because there is plenty more coming. And don't leave just yet. The next video appearing on your screen dives straight into another celebrity drama story, with even more twists, controversy, and details worth breaking down. Click that video now, keep watching, and I'll see you on the next one.